Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to Uncommon Pallor. My name's Mike, and today we are going to discuss what is quite possibly the most disliked vinyl format available, that being Flexis. Now, Flexis, they used to be a thing. They were first created in 1962 at Evertone Records, which I believe was in Florida, and they became pretty integral to advertising and promotion for a lot of companies. They would get a bazillion of these things, pressed up for next to nothing, insert them in their catalogs and magazines, ship them off in the mail, and voila. But over time, as vinyl records fell out of vogue with mainstream consumers, so did the Flexi. But one place the Flexi didn't fall out of vogue was with punk labels, and to a lesser extent, metal labels. And you still see them pop up pretty regularly today in distros. So as a result, over the years, I've amassed a half-decent stack of Flexis. Not because I'm, a Flexi enthusiast by any means. Generally, they sound like shit. But more because I'm a guy that just likes to have stuff. So we're going to discuss a few Flexis today. We're going to start off with ACDC. But not that ACDC. I'm talking the Los Angeles ACDC. Antichrist Demon Core. This is the Postcard Flexi on To Live a Lie records. This is just new school power violence. Super fast, super screamy. Kind of reminds me of Despise You, to be honest. Very, very well done. They've been around quite a while. They have a bunch of stuff out. But if you're a fan of new school power violence, or just modern, fast, screamy hardcore as a whole, then you might want to check out Antichrist Demon Core because you'll probably like them. Now we'll jump over to Hamilton, Ontario. This is a great band. Born Wrong. This is the Thin Skin Flexi on Schizophrenic Records. This is just well done, straight up, no nonsense, kick you in the face hardcore punk. Fantastic live band. I saw them play many, many times. They were always great. Usually when you see this, you just see it as it's just the Flexi. But my copy is the fancy schmancy silkscreen cover edition. It's number 7 out of 51. Fairly tight with the singer of this band. I haven't seen him since before the pandemic. He moved away to Ottawa. After Born Wrong split, he did a band called No Blues, which was more of a power pop, marked men type of thing. Very good. And last time I saw him, he was in a band from Ottawa called Liquid Assets, who were also very, very good. But like I said, haven't seen him since before the pandemic. So, Scott, if you're watching, hope you're doing well, man. Now we're going to Norway, circa 1987. I showed the discography by this band like many, many videos ago. They would easily fall within my top 5 1980s hardcore punk bands ever, of a worldwide perspective. They've got a unique sound, in my opinion. And I just genuinely like them a lot. It's Barna Regnbuen. This is the Helter og Skurker Flexi, which was released on their own Barn Plater records. Up-tempo, kind of grimy, dirty sounding hardcore punk. Bass playing is all over the place, as is the drumming. The kick drum is real prevalent in the mix, which a lot of times can be kind of negatively distracting for me. But in this case, it works with their sound. It kind of accentuates the frantic nature of their songwriting. And it gives it kind of maybe a ramshackle feel, if that makes sense. The guitar's got this weird piercing tone. And it kind of, the crappy production, just the crappy sound you get off Flexis, it might not be doing it justice because it creates its own like column of noise that rides through the song, but it's kind of hard to tell what he's doing in there, but he's doing some shit. So, and yeah, it's still great. Vocals, hoarse, gravelly, definitely needs a lozenge, but there's melody here, in the choruses especially. There's melody in the way that the early Swedish Kang bands like ACDC had, where in the choruses they'll do a lot of like whoa whoa whoas and all that kind of shit. But because these guys have that kind of dirty, gnarly sound, their melody almost takes on a different face. And I find that interesting. Guitar player for this band, Roger, is one of my favorite guitar players in all of hardcore ever. Very creative. He's got a very unique style to him. If you hear a band that he's in, you instantly know that he's in it. He's also been in Life But How to Live It, Captain Not Responsible. He's currently in a band called Danger Man, who are pretty good. One of my old bands played with a band he was in called Drunk, who were absolutely fantastic. Just the worst name for a great band ever. But so I got a chance to pick his brain a little bit. I think he was both, bewildered that some guy in, a small city in Canada would know so much about his past, I guess. So I guess he was a little confused and, maybe irritated. I don't know. But whatever. This is a great band. I understand if you don't want to get a Flexi because they do sound like shit. This one's fairly muddy. But at the very least, if you think you'll like this, then pick up their discography, Folk Uten Framtid. It's on Cradle to Grave Records. You can get this on Discogs for under $20 for sure, and it's well worth it. Love this band. All right, now we're gonna go on to some comps. I'm gonna preface this all by saying that a lot of the bands on these comps are Japanese, and a lot of them fall into the traditional Japanese hardcore style. Now, for people that don't know what that is, let's quickly explain that it's kind of an up-tempo, fast style of hardcore. Gruff vocals, gang choruses. Every fifth stroke on the drums is a crash hit, so it just makes it just constantly build momentum. Generally, the musicianship is a little better than a lot of hardcore or punk bands, bordering on metal proficiency in a lot of cases. So that's what I mean when I say traditional Japanese hardcore. So, don't give me weird looks. So we'll start out with the first one. It's on MCR Company, which is a label run by, I believe, by the singer of a band called Fuckgees, who fall into the traditional Japanese hardcore category. But this one's Sapporo City Hardcore, with a really wacky cover. You got three bands on here. You got the Slang, you got FUP, and you got Satanic Hellslaughter. Now, the Slang are pretty well known, although in everything else I've ever seen, they're just known as Slang. This is the only time where I've seen them referred to as the Slang. Traditional Japanese hardcore, very well done. Still around today. I believe they might have just released a new LP, or they are just releasing a new LP. Very, very good band. FUP also tried to do the traditional style. Not quite as tight. Pretty sloppy at it. Vocals are a little more Cookie Monster than I'd like. But I'd be interested to hear more of their material. I know there was a discography LP that just got released a while back. I'd like to check that out because I've never heard anything else by them. And then Satanic Hellslaughter, also pretty, heavy traditional Japanese hardcore influence to their stuff. But there's also a bit of amoebics creeping in there, so it makes it a little more interesting, but I'm still not a giant fan of that band. Slang is the winner on this one. And another MCR Company release, Tokyo Santama City Hardcore. There's four bands on this one. You got Les Hayes, who are one of the traditional type bands. They sound like they could have come right off the Thrash Till Death comp with like Auto, Systematic Death, Gauze, and Lip Cream. They're very, very good at what they do. You got Rinju Zange, who I've never heard of before or since. It's more metal. It's more shitty, kind of go nowhere metal. Song's too long, bores me to tears. Yeah. You got GJPB, which is Greatest Japanese Punk Band, or in my circle of friends, Grape Jelly Peanut Butter. I love that band too, but the production on this song is so bad, and then the kind of shitty sound quality of Flexis makes it even worse. They're a traditional style band, a little bit more of maybe a D beat in there, but I've heard way better from them. So kind of sucks. It's a great band, just shitty production. And then Gil, the winner of this record. Like, they're the greatest band on here. Again, the traditional style. But there are, like, the bridge part in this almost sounds like Youth of Today jumped in there. There's like a Youth Crew feel to it. And the vocals, the singer's voice kind of reminds me of the guy from Raw Power. Not when he's like doing that hissy over the top style, but with his regular style where it's just like that kind of hollow sound. And that's what he sounds like. So yeah, Gil definitely takes the cake here. Les Hayes comes in a close second, but Tokyo Santama City Hardcore. And the last of the Flexis, this one's on 625 Productions, which is now known as 625 Thrashcore. It's a label run by Max Ward, who was in Plutocracy, Spaz, What Happens Next, Capitalist Casualties, etc., etc. It's called Bandana Thrash, Volume 1. What you have here is 3 Japanese bands and What Happens Next, who are from the California Bay Area. Flash Gordon, musically, they kind of lean more towards the crossover side of things, but there's definitely a really solid, like, goofy punk feel to it as well, but moreover, musically, it's got a crossover feel to it. Lie, super fast, just crazy hardcore. Singer's voice kind of sounds like he's in that weird stage when when you're a kid and you inhale helium out of a balloon. This guy sounds like he's right in that stage where, you're transitioning from the high-pitched helium voice to, like, your normal voice. He's right in that gray area. That's what he sounds like. There's a bunch of bands from Japan that do that crazy helium high-pitched singing style, like Food Chain. I swear they must have a helium tank at the side of the stage because his voice is so crazy. Then you got Crucial Section, 80s influenced hardcore. You can definitely see them wearing a lot of, flannel shirts and bandanas and, skateboards in the pit and circle pits and all that shit. Very good at what they do. And then What Happens Next, as I said, from the California Bay Area, they do the same kind of thing as Crucial Section. It's exactly the same style of music. It's just one's from Japan and one's from the West Coast of the United States. What Happens Next, like I said, it's got Max Ward on drums. It's got Devin Morph on vocals, who also played in a band called All You Could Eat. I saw them play live once, and Devin Morph is a fucking crazy frontman, jumping all over the fucking place. Robert Collins is in that band. He was in, like, Artemis Pyle and a bazillion other bands. And Cregums is in that band, who is the guy that produced a fucking good portion of DIY hardcore punk in California, from the 90s right through into the 2000s. He's also the alter ego of Hot Licks Hula Hands, who's a U.S. air guitar champion at one point in time. So, yeah, Bandana Thrash, Volume 1. Now we go over to Richmond, Virginia. It's a band called Fried Egg. This is the Incredible Flexible Egg. This is just really well played, kind of quirky at times, just hardcore punk. If you like stuff like Chain Whip, you would probably like Fried Egg. I mean, it's along the same lines stylistically without, sounding too much like each other, I suppose. Yeah, just a good solid band. I saw them in Toronto a few years back at Sneaky D's. They're really, really good. And then Bougie Boys came on the stage and completely destroyed everyone. So we had a band from Oakland, California called Khiis. This is from 2018. It's their demo, given the Flexi treatment by Discos Enfermos. Saw this band live, super good. Female vocals. It's kind of a really solid mix of, like, modern DIY hardcore punk with, like, the 1-2 1-2 1-2 1-2 kind of drum beat. But there's a really, really heavy UK 82 influence in here. Stuff like the Expelled and the Violators. Like, it's a female vocalist, and she has that same kind of vocal quality to her. Yeah, so if you think Expelled or the Violators, and then mix it with, like, the modern DIY hardcore punk sound, it would sound like Khiis. Lyrics are on English and Farsi, which makes things a little more interesting, I suppose. But yeah, really, really good band. Khiis. And we got a band from Portland, Oregon, Suck Lords, Songs the Lords Taught Us. 80s style hardcore punk. You can hear, you can definitely hear like Negative Approach in here, and Life Sentence. I hear a little bit of Life Sentence in here. You can hear Poison Idea all over the place. People in this band from other bands like Nassau Space Universe, Mongoloid, Unix, etc., etc. Yeah, pretty good band. Their stuff's it's always consistently good. I've got a bunch of their shit, so yeah. Suck Lords. Now we'll stay in Portland for a band that everybody seems to know, Lebanon Toten, At the Window. Now, Lebanon Toten, great live band. Again, I've been saying that a lot this video, but really good live band. Super noisy, but controlled noisy. Kind of crusty, hardcore punk. Female vocalist that has a really unrelenting vocal style. Usually their stuff's pretty fast. This is slowed right down. It's kind of more of a meandery, kind of a mind fuck of a track. But their use of noise is impressive. It creates its own level to the song. It's very controlled. It's controlled feedback that creates its own like division in the song. At times it almost sounds like it's raining whistles, if that makes sense. But it works. It works for their sound, and I don't think I would like them as much without that noisy aspect to them. But very, very good band. I pick their stuff up anytime I see it. And the last one for Portland, this one's from 1994. Again, a pretty well-known band. Masskontroll. This is Recycle or Die. It's on Consensus Reality. This just sounds like like an 80s Swedish, raw hardcore band like Anti-Cymex or something, but with a heavy dose of doom, like the UK band Doom. But then there are times on this where they kind of approach something like Disrupt, where it's kind of more grindcore, but not quite grindcore. But it's fleeting at best, but it's still here. This band was kind of like an all-star cast of people that played in Portland bands. Like you had, all the guys that played in like Resist and Defiance and bands like that were in Masskontroll. So, yeah, good record. Now we got some metal. This is the 2011 split tour Flexi between Absu and Infernal Stronghold. Now, Absu is from Texas. I saw them play once. They came through town and played with Enslaved. Their drummer was a fucking douche that couldn't keep his mouth shut and almost ended up getting stomped to death. They're more of like a blackened thrash. Like it's more of a thrash metal thing, but there's definitely a black metal influence to it. Infernal Stronghold from Philadelphia play in much the same style, although no one I know has ever threatened to beat them up. But yeah, I mean both bands on this are really, really good. It's just the guy from Absu was a fucking suckhole. So yeah, self-released by the bands. Grindcore, Insect Warfare, and The Kill. Insect Warfare from Houston, one of my favorite grindcore bands ever. Totally in the From Enslavement to Obliteration style. Very fucking good at it. The entire band, the musicianship is, fantastic. The drumming is insane. So yeah, definitely a good pairing for this, because The Kill, who are from Australia, are also very fucking fast, and their drumming is insane, and musically they're just very proficient at it. But instead of leaning towards the early Napalm Death style of things, they go almost in a Discordance Axis direction. They just, they're a lot of really good discordant guitar parts. Really well done, and the drumming is excellent. So yeah, Insect Warfare and The Kill. on the charmingly named Regurgitated Semen Records. Now we go to Toronto, a two-piece, Intensive Care. This is the Tupperware Flexi. The easiest thing I could say is if you like Godflesh, you're going to like Intensive Care. It's like Godflesh with a little more of an electronic noise thing going on in the background. This is Andy Nolan, who was in Shank, The Endless Blockade, Column of Heaven, you know, etc., etc. And then another guy that I don't know, who apparently was also in The Endless Blockade. But yeah, they're just doing this kind of industrial-ish Godflesh type thing. Very, very good. Seen them live a couple times. They were great. Now some 70s punk. This is a band called Zealots. Started out in Vancouver in 1978. They were an all-female band. Then in 1979, their drummer was replaced by a dude. That dude was Jughead from the Modernettes. So that was in 79, and they recorded the material on this. And then in 1980, they moved from Vancouver to London, Ontario. So they were right in my neck of the woods. And then they broke up in 1984. I never saw this band live. It was a little bit before my time. I do recall seeing the remnants of old flyers, you know, wheat pasted to walls and light posts and whatnot, though. Very rock and roll based, as you would expect from 70s punk. But there's a bit of, I guess, what would be considered today a post-punk kind of feel to it. Maybe even a little bit of you know, what would become an indie rock feel, I suppose. The songs they're well done. I mean, it's not one of the most exciting, you know, 70s punk bands I've ever heard. But from a historical perspective, it's pretty cool, especially for this area. But yeah, the Zealots. And then, last but not least, fucking nonsense Flexi from 1978, National Geographic, Songs of the Humpback Whale. Anytime you're expecting to do, you know, hallucinogenic drugs, this is what you want to be playing, because it's Songs of the Humpback Whale and a really dull-sounding narrator. You can't ask for any more than that when you're flipped out on acid or mushrooms or whatever. So yeah, National Geographic. So I'm probably not the only one with Flexis. Show me your Flexis if you feel so inclined. But that's all I got for today. Cheers. I'm going record shopping.